You. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. Now, here's Gary.
You're live.
Happy Friday, everybody. This is Gary Quackenbush here on the Word on Wealth. It's so good to have you along on this Friday show. And it's sunny. I love it. You know, when somebody's from San Diego, when they talk about the weather, and I'm just glad we don't have our Northwest weather anymore. It's sunny today. I'm looking forward to a really fun weekend. I always look forward to weekends. I look forward to every day. And I look forward to Fridays because this is our Finding Joy Fridays. And we always have these fantastic guests that are willing to come on the show and take some of their time to help us understand some things. Today, we have a very special guest named Callie Logan. She is a U.S. history teacher. So we actually have an amazing teacher on the show with us today, author of a book called Hang In There, Girl. So we want to talk to, first of all, Callie, how are you doing today?
Hi, I am so happy to be on here and happy Friday. So thank you so much for having me on today.
Thank you. I was really pleased that you accepted our invitation again. I like you. You're good. You're good on the radio, and I think the stuff that you share with us. I've had clients that will comment and say, "I heard you on the radio, and I heard that really nice lady, that Callie lady, what you're talking about, relationship labels." And so that's super.
You know
super
who else
important.
likes her, Gary? Is Barry Shore.
Really?
Seriously, no joke.
That does not surprise me.
Had
Very
them on
short.
my show at the same time. It was just a ray of sunshine. It was great.
Oh man, that's a beautiful idea for the future. We'll mark that down. Good deal. Hey, Callie, talk to us a couple things. You've got your book that came out, Hang In There, Girl. I'd love you to talk about that a little. These are great books that help people, in many different ways, and that's what we're all about on our Finding Joy Fridays. So tell us a little bit about how things are going. So remind us again what Hang In There, Girl is about, the book, and then how is that going, sales and signing parties and stuff like that. And then I want you to introduce your new book.
Yeah, Hang In There, Girl came out in 2022, last May. It's hard to believe that we're almost at the year mark for that coming out because it feels like so much has happened since then, but it feels like yesterday too. And that book was such a heart book. I've been a school teacher for several years, and I've worked with youth for almost a decade and had just such a blessed opportunity to kind of be like a mentor and a big sister to so many. And in the course of that book, I found myself just really connecting with young women, and a lot of them had the same things that they were having come up and pop up in their lives. And I sensed a lot of general themes, and I started writing little devotionals, and those devotionals inevitably became a book. And I'm grateful for the journey that God had of a stack of probably 10 journals becoming a book of just big sister encouragement for someone who's walk the path before them, or, everyone has such a different story, but they can maybe not feel so alone. So that was the first book. And then we have Dear Future Husband is coming out June 1st, 2023. That'll be available everywhere. So excited about that. That one is particularly close to my heart. It's a book encouraging young women who are waiting for their future spouse, and to know that during that wait, they don't have to just sit idly by, twiddle their thumbs, or cry or complain. There's so much to be done in the meantime. And from praying for a future spouse to also realizing they are becoming the woman that God meant for them to be along the way in the journey. And that journey holds so much value. Their lives have so much more value than just the last name that they have. And that one day, like changing of a last name is such a gift, and that brings beauty too, but the journey there's so much that God has for them. And so it's just a book of encouragement for women who are waiting for God's best and who are becoming who God meant for them to be.
Terrific. I really enjoy you explaining that. It's we need good books. There's a lot of books out there. There are thousands, there are millions of books out there, and I like it when something new comes out with an idea that is not new, but definitely presented in a great way that that young people, especially young women, can relate to it. Young women are really taking the biggest hit with the way the world kind of crashes and burns and has all these these really distorted thinking and everything. The young women really take the brunt of some of the disgusting things in our society. So thank you for doing that. Cheers to you. Kudos. That's super awesome. So Dear Future Husband comes out in June and Hang in There Girl is out now. And we can get it anywhere, any store. Tell us about how to get hold of you, like to find out a little bit more about you.
Yeah, I'd say probably first I try to be pretty active on socials with Instagram and all of that. So that's Callie with a Y, Logan, just the at. And then my website is another great way to message me. I have opportunity there with newsletters and devotionals, and I really just try for encouragement. It's not an upsell or anything. It's genuinely just something to encourage and bring a little light and help people not feel so alone in their walk. I'm really big on authenticity and genuine connection. So I feel like sending a message to me is just hanging out for coffee.
Awesome. All right. So we got you on Instagram. You're easy to find, Callie with Y, Callie Logan, Instagram, etc. And you have your website, crosswalk.com. Okay. So here is my question. This is why I brought you on today specifically. If you simply turn on the news, you hear things about Jerome Powell, the Fed chairman, comes out and makes an announcement and says, okay, we're going to increase the Fed funds rate by 25 basis points, 0.25%, or by 0.5% or 0.75%. You hear about things like Silicon Valley Bank and Bank Swiss and Signature Bank. So they've all gone into receivership because the government's having to pay out to cover the lost claims because of runs on the bank. And there's so much stuff like that. We are a money-driven society. There's nothing we can do about, anything other than that. I mean, as a little kid, it was, I had an allowance. A lot of kids do. I still think it's a great idea, but an allowance as long as I did the certain responsibilities and chores that I had, I got my allowance, and then I could earn extra money by doing windows or whatever. But we're always taught to deal with money and handle money. And then you hear things like a bank with billions of dollars collapses and goes into receivership and has all these problems. There's just a lot of news. And I think because we're money centered, we think about it because that's how we establish value. Totally makes sense. And then when it starts to feel like it's shaking or crumbling, especially a bank, I mean, cryptocurrency doing its thing and being weird is like, whatever, it's cryptocurrency, but it's a bank. So you hear this news and I feel a lot of people's pressure and stress over, oh my gosh, my money's not safe. I'm not safe. The world's not safe. So I want to have you address that a little bit. We have about a minute to kind of get into part of it. And then after we take a really quick break, I want you to continue. But so think about that, Callie. It's like, what pointers can you give to our listeners, things that they can have takeaways from this show to help them deal with the negative, terrible news that we get bombarded with every day? Because there's got to be something we can do to help people kind of get through that. So go ahead and I'll give you 30 seconds and then we're going to take a break.
I think the biggest thing that I found in life, because I remember growing up in the 2008 recession and I was entering college at that time, and that was kind of a hard time to be entering into adulthood. But I think the biggest thing is keeping good perspective.
20 seconds.
I think that's keeping godly perspective, that the world's going to have its ups and downs, but we get to choose what our perspective is, and we get to choose where we're going to find our foundation and our hope and our security ultimately. And I can't wait till after the break to talk more about that.
You got it. Okay, perspective. Listen up. Don't touch that dial. We're coming back to talk about perspective with Callie Logan right here on The Word on Well.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to The Word on Well with Gary Quackenbush. We're here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
I didn't mean to alarm you, but you literally said she had 30 seconds and we only had 30.
asking about trust disputes and whether or not they'll actually get the inheritance they're expecting.
I think that's a scary thing for most people because they feel like, if I ask my successor trustee, hey, where's my inheritance? You kind of feel like, oh my gosh, I'm being like rude or whatever, inconsiderate. But I'm telling you, if time goes on, if it's been like 60 days, 90 days,
Just so you know, you probably just worded it wrong, but crosswalk.com.
Law 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com. 855-500-TRUST.
You're live.
Hey, happy Friday, everybody. It is Finding Joy Friday here on the Word on Wealth. And we're here every weekday, Monday through Friday, same time, same station, 2:00 every day, talking about all kinds of things wealth-wise. And on Friday, we just take off the dollar sign and talk about our mental wealth and our physical wealth and things like that, our relationships. And we have with us Callie Logan. I want to make one correction. I said she has a website called crosswalk.com. No, Salem has crosswalk.com, and she's a senior writer at crosswalk.com. And providing all kinds of good content there. So you can learn about her at crosswalk.com and on her Instagram and all over social media. Okay. So I was giving you a chance and I cut you off super short there. You're such a good player on the radio. I love it. So we have Callie Logan, and we are talking about dealing with like not just the buzzword, the negative news cycle, but in dealing with all the terrible news that we've been getting lately. I mean, we're in a war. Then we have a bank collapse. Then we have another one collapse. So we have another one collapse. It's like, whoa, is it safe? How do we deal with this? I mean, if you listened to my show yesterday with Anthony Wright, he talked about, he's a financial wizard, and he talks about all that stuff and how it's okay and we're fine. And here's what to do with your investments now. But now we have Callie Logan to help us figure out, like, how do you deal with this stuff emotionally? And what are some tools that we have? I mean, talk to your teenage girls. That's fine, Callie. Whatever audience you want. I mean, our listening audience is probably a little older than teenagers, but I would bet that most of our listening audience has either teenage children or grandchildren, because I have teenage grandchildren. So talk to us about dealing with the stuff we're bombarded with.
Yeah, I think it's really any age. I think it's just being a human. There's so much negativity in the world, and it's hard to you turn on the news and the cortisol levels rise and you're stressed out and thinking, oh no, what should I do? And you're starting to cut a hole in your mattress to start putting the cash in there. But I think it comes down to perspective. And one of the biggest things that I've been noticing here lately, a lot of the feelings and sentiments when I talk to people remind me of how it felt when I graduated around the time of the 2008 recession. And I remember the bailouts at that time were for the big car companies and, things like that. And all of the stress that everybody was under. And I remember when I was at that age, I let the stress consume me a lot. But here years later, I'm looking at it and I think, well, I have the perspective choice. I can either look at the problem or I can look at the solution. And the solution with everything is God. And I know that if he cares for the sparrows, he's going to care for me too. Now, that doesn't mean I make, poor choices when it comes to things, but I think really taking the perspective of inviting God into finances, inviting God into it every day. Lord, guide me and lead me and show me what your will is and what your desire is for me to do with the things that you give me. And if I am in need, then I will lean on you to provide that need. If I am in want, then you might leave me in want for a while, and that's okay. But I will continue to lean on you. And I think other tools that we can really glean from, besides perspective choice, is just leaning on one another too. I think we often keep kind of bottled up our emotions and feelings and fears, but I've come to find that when you share vulnerably with the right people, that you might find some sincere kindness. You might find that they're feeling the same exact way, and it's such a relief to share that in community. And I think that's why we need a good table in front of us. We need a good circle of friends that we can trust and have those real conversations with, So I would say perspective and community would be two really great tools for this time period and any time, really.
And I understand that because we're all in this, and so I think if you feel like a victim or you're isolated and that all this news is affecting you and your problems are unique, they're really, to you, they're yours. But what you're saying, it sounds like, we have a good table, a solid table in front of us. We have a circle of friends. We have our community of care. As we've had some other people discuss it, is that it's good to talk it out with people, because you start to find out that, wow, they feel the same way I do, and they have a way of dealing with it that I can work with. And you have your community of care, your people around you, but it doesn't do good to bottle it up, because then you start to have all the serious issues and maybe get into the anxiety, depression loop and all that.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So help us on now. Let's, how do we do that? How do we kind of circle our friends, or how do we approach it? What are good ways? We've all been around people where everything is a negative retort. Everything is negative. Like, oh, it's sunny today. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm sweating. Oh, it's been raining for a month and it's nice and sunny today. And then you get this, oh yeah, but I'm sweating now. It's like there's negative, negative, negative. And so how do we get a circle of friends or community around us? How do we select who that's going to be so that we can actually have these common solutions and maybe some, opportunities to discuss that?
Oh, I think that's a great question. And I think that's actually one that I've been wrestling with and praying with myself a little bit at times, because I'll bring different people in through different seasons. And I think be mindful if you have negative people surrounding you, because that's going to rub off. It's kind of like a bad cold. You're probably going to catch it. You're probably going to catch that negativity, and that's not something you want to catch. But I think being in prayer, asking God to bring the people that you need and that they need you as well, bringing that in community. And I think keeping a good ear out for groups that you have kind of a nudging or an inkling or feeling that you might fit in well with, if that's maybe like a prayer breakfast at church or something, or it could even be a community club or something like that. And I think looking at the friends that you do have that, you have a good feeling, have good interactions after you talk to them, and choosing to spend time investing in those relationships and knowing usually good people know good people. A lot of my community that I have it's virtual right now because it's mainly in Minnesota, but it all came from a gal I worked with. We both worked at Apple at the time. We hit it off, and she really let me into kind of her community and world, and I ended up becoming great friends with many of the people at her church. And I have two of them coming to visit me this weekend, which I'm so excited about. But it was knowing that good people know good people, and just taking time to really invest in those good relationships.
That's wonderful. I love that. talk to us about, so let's say you are in a situation where, you have people around you, they're friends or, acquaintances or whatever. And, I think we just loosely call them friends. So we have, some people around us, and we have somebody that's really negative, and maybe it's somebody that you think that they really should be somebody that you can rely on, but it's just not working out. How do you, what's an approach with somebody like that to get away from them? You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Yeah. Cause
I think that, limiting. No, go ahead.
no, yeah. So that's what I'm trying to figure out is like a real approach, because I talk, anyway, even in my career and in my social life and everything, you get people that are you just almost get tired of being around them, but you know that you have to be around them because they're related, because they're at work or whatever. But then you're trying to figure out a way, how do I kind of get out? I'm stuck with this person. How do I kind of get out of their, they can't be in my community of care. They can't be somebody that I talk to. And what's the easiest way to kind of just get away from them? Or how do you address that? Like, you don't just say, you're an idiot, I hate you, I'm running away, I'm gonna slap you. There's got to be a way to kind of work that situation to where you can be in a better place.
Oh, totally. I mean, I think number one, if you have the ability to kind of set a boundary time-wise, I think that would be people that you're not in direct contact with daily, or even if you are, just limiting the interaction time. And it doesn't have to be harsh. It can be a boundary that, they might not even realize is, a wall, but, choosing not to, if it's somebody that you work with, choosing not to be in the break room the same time they are, making a conscious choice, like, oh, let's go eat in my car, or, making arrangements that you have limited interaction. And then when you are with them, filtering it, kind of like a Brita filter, taking, don't let the negativity, don't let the bad stuff come through. None of these easier said than done, but I think it's kind of tuning out and making the choice, that might be their perspective, but that does not mean that I have to adopt that mentality as well. So making adjustments where you have to. And if you do have the ability, where you're not around them on a daily basis, just distancing yourself. And it doesn't have to be blatant, and it doesn't have to be where you're screaming at them or anything, but just making moves to be busy, maybe taking a couple of days to respond to that text message, or just kind of slowly backing away so that you aren't in constant contact as to be affected by their negativity. And I think praying for them too, because I don't think, that's the mentality God wants for them. And if there's only one that can change a heart, and that's God. So I think praying for them to have more of a positive perspective, and perhaps if there's something going on in their life that is impacting that, praying that God would ease that, or, encourage them to be more vulnerable about sharing about it and perhaps getting help for it.
Wonderful. Really, really appreciate that. So I'm taking lots of notes, so I get this. It's basically your time boundary. I guess that's kind of like you hear about, well, this person, yeah, that person's a 5-minute friend. That person is a 2-hour friend. This person I could spend a weekend with, but not the rest of my life. This person I can spend a week with, but not necessarily 2 months.
2 minutes.
So you have the time boundaries, the time you're going to spend with them. I enjoy that explanation. So Kelly, last words for us on, and you really do have a full minute this time to kind of give us a summary on what you would like. Let's do the audience to the young women that you're addressing in your book, Dear Future Husband, and in your book, Hang in There, Girl. Help them, because you're with a group of them. You're at the local library or whatever with a group of these young women, and they're saying, Callie, this is a scary world. What's going to happen? How should we feel? Give them a little pep talk.
Yeah, I think, nothing is new under the sun. And when Solomon said that thousands of years ago, it was true, and it still is true today. And I think it's knowing that, yes, it is a scary world. We live in a fallen world, and it's hard, and it's never easy, but we don't walk it alone. And, Jesus didn't promise that following after him was going to be easy, but he did promise that you wouldn't walk it alone.
Not a minute.
I believe God wants the best for his children. So I think it's continuing to be in prayer that for God's best, but also being willing to walk in alignment for when he asks for those things, for, to take the fullness of opportunity that he has for them. So that's the pep talk I would give for sure, not to settle, but to wait for God's best and to just trust the path he's got.
Don't settle. Okay, got that. You know, it is so true. We live in a wonderful world. We live in a wonderful nation. All you got to do is go out of the nation, and then you come back and go, we got it good here, man. We are a free nation. We get to say what we want. We get to be with who we want. Callie, Logan, I really appreciate you being here. I want everybody to know, find Callie on social media, get her books. In June, you got Dear Future Husband coming out. These are specifically for young women. And of course, their parents and their brothers and sisters can read them, and hang in there, girl. Callie, Logan, thank you for being a teacher. Thank you for being wonderful. And thank you for being a guest here on the Word on Wealth. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
You as well. Thank you. Bye.
You've got questions. We've got answers. This is the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush of GQ Law. Gary's here to give you peace of mind with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary to build, protect, and transfer your wealth. 855-500-TRUST. GQLaw.com.
disasters and just had myself muted. There we go. When you have the natural disasters, we have the flooding, we have the rain and all that kind of thing. The IRS typically sees that there's an increase in scams. There's an increase in fake charities trying to say, hey, here's this charity and we help flood victims. And so give us your money. It's tax deductible. Click here, put in your information, and we'll get your money to the right place. And those are scams. Anybody that's asking you for money, click here and give us money, it's going to be a scam. The other thing is that sometimes it's not just clicking, it's actually being called up by them, and they ask these really interesting questions that where they end up getting information from you that you don't want them to have, but they will just keep pushing until they get the information they need. So for example, what happens with these things, you get these tax scams, these fake charities, and they'll come up and say, here's this where's this one on the fake charities? Let's see. So you have the fake charities one, and they say that they've created this charity to help victims in natural disasters. And what they do is they exploit the victim, and then they steal your identity. So if you're responding to the charity and thinking you're being charitable and taking care of people that have lost their home or been a victim of flooding and all that, you end up providing information, and that information then is used by the scam company to exploit you and your financial information and then take your stuff. So then they end up getting your bank account and taking your money. And it may seem like that, how could somebody actually do that? People do. We had on this show, we had consumer Bob Hansen. He worked for, he's a consumer reporter for 40 years. And he was talking to us about scams. And I asked him, are these like in these back rooms somewhere where it's really dark and it's candle lit and all smoky and stuff like that? And he said, no, some of these scams, they're not typically run out of the United States, but we're connected worldwide, you guys. It's just, the internet is worldwide. It's not just to our borders. So when you log in, do you know if you're in, some other foreign country, or are you here in the US? And what he was saying is that it is so prevalent and so pervasive and so big that there are companies that are scams, where they run scams all day, that are so big they actually have 401k plans for their employees who are running the scams. So they're in the countries that they're doing it in, they're big enough, these scams, to try and steal money from people, especially here in the United States. The companies are big enough, these scams, that they actually have retirement plans for their workers. So this is no joke. It's not some teenage super smart kid that's hacked your computer. These are companies that's just what they do. So the IRS says, just be really careful. Do not give in to pressure. Verify the name of the charity, the donor information. Be wary about, how the donation is requested. If they ask for donations by giving, they want you to give you numbers from a gift card or wire money or anything like that. Those are the ones that are scams. If you're going to pay, if you're going to do it, the IRS says the safest way is to pay by credit card or check, but after you verified that the charity is real, because a credit card, they're easier to protect because they've got fraud protections on the credit cards. And then the other one is don't give more than is needed. If a charity needs a particular amount of information, you don't want to give them any more than that. So the way some of these things work is, it's like, for example, I was watching a movie the other day, and somebody, some reporter went up to somebody and said, hey, what do you got going on here? And you're scamming people, and this isn't fair. And the guy said, hey, it's, we're doing nothing wrong by contacting those retired folks. And of course, then the reporter goes, oh, retired folks, huh? So the way he responded was more information than she was really asking for, but then gave her more information, and then she moves on. And that's the way these scams work. This situation happened in my family, and they'd called and they're asking, for money, and it was a lot of money, but it was going to be a money order. And they had a phone call that came from, it sounded like one of the grandkids was calling and saying, hey, grandpa, I need money. And literally they even provided verification, like, here's the callback number. And it was the the person called back and there was somebody that answered and said, said the right name and all that stuff. Oh yeah, he's here in custody and you need money orders and whatever. And they were just like this really sophisticated scam. But the reason it seemed legitimate is because they had gone on the social media account and seen things like in your social media. A lot of us say that, oh yeah, this is my daughter, this is my son. So you have family relationships connected between your Facebook friends. So it's pretty easy to figure out, well, what's your daughter's name, what's your son's name, if you've connected those people together. And so you get these scammers that will do all this research, find as much as they can about your family and about your friends and about the people that you hang out with and, the people that you're congratulating happy birthday to, and, all these different things that you don't realize people can get to. And they use that information then to scam you. And, they'll say, what about your brother, Bill? How's he doing? And, and so they sound like they're familiar with you. They don't know anything about you other than what they've got off of the website that you provided and put out there for everybody to see. So the IRS is coming and saying, don't do that. You've got to stop these scams. You got to stop responding to them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the full Dirty Dozen. I've got that coming up. Let's see, Dirty Dozen. So fake charities is one. Third-party promoters talk about
2 minutes.
Federal fuel tax. So they contact you and they say, hey, there's this federal fuel tax. Do you qualify for the fuel tax? Call us, give us this information. Scammers offering to help set up an online account. They create, and that's kind of tricky, is like they're calling you and saying, hey, you can set up this account. You get the savings account at 3.75%. It's really a great deal. And let me help you get that set up so your money can start earning money right away. Let's see, during tax season, there's scammers that will send out emails and text messages to try to trick you to respond like, hey, I need you to talk to me, or, this is your tax pro and you got to send me that W-2 because I didn't get a copy of it, things like that seem like, well, that would make sense. It's tax season and my tax pro has my stuff. And so, they're doing these things just thinking there's some chance that it would be legitimate. And then the other one was the employee retention credit claims. What they're doing is they've got these promoters that are saying, yeah, you should apply for employee retention credits, and then they do it, and it's not even a real company. It's not legitimate. The whole idea is they're all trying to get you to respond to them, to give them any information that they can get, especially if they can get your social security number, any bank numbers, or any specific information like that. Then they can just go for it, and maybe they'll go away for a while. They'll be snooping around. And then once they have you locked up in your electronically, then, then that's when you got a problem. That's when they scam you or trick you. So looking out for those things, I think, is super important. They come out, the IRS is doing these Dirty Dozen scams. They're talking about them all the time. And so I just thought I would bring that up. Some of them are just crazy. Scams regarding, hey, your economic income impact payment is coming up. Give me your information so I can help you get that faster. And so let's not do that. Make sure that you are safe and secure online. Make sure you know who you're talking to and that you're initiating the calls and contacts, not them. We'll be back here on the Word on Wealth in just a moment.
You don't need to know everything. You just need to know where to find answers you can trust when you need them. Welcome to the Word on Wealth with Gary Quackenbush. We are here to help you build, protect, and transfer everything you've worked hard for with expert estate planning, trust administration, inheritance, and probate. Call Gary and the team at gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
Gary, how do you and your team help our listeners avoid probate?
Well, first of all, probate is a process that involves attorneys, judges, and sometimes contesting parties. And so we try to avoid probate at pretty much all costs. The way we do that is setting up living trusts, setting up properly documented wills, putting the property like houses, cars, bank accounts in that trust so that it avoids probate. Probate is only necessary if the estate plan isn't set up quite right. So we help them get it set up right. And mainly that's done through a properly created living trust.
Call Gary and the team at GQ Law, 855-500-TRUST, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free initial consultation. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500-TRUST.
Hi, I'm Gus Blumenthal, Mercedes-Benz of Temecula. If the car of your dreams is not the car in your garage, let's talk. Right now, we have over 500 Mercedes-Benz and Sprinter vans available, with incredible lease offers like a new GLA for just $509 per month, 36 months, 10,000 miles, $4,053 due at signing. Visit mbtemecula.com or come to the dealership and drive your dream Mercedes-Benz home.
Mercedes-Benz of Temecula, building relationships one guest at a time.
Believe me, we'll make it worth the drive.
Call 844-483-2126.
The answer.
Trust, or go online and download Gary's free ebooks and videos. Read Gary's blogs. Call or click to request your free consultation or to talk with a member of the GQ team. That's gqlaw.com, 855-500.
And happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to Feel Good Friday, Finding Joy Friday here on the Word on Wealth. We talk about money Monday through Thursday. You know how our laydown is. We talk about, let's see, coming up, we've got taxes on Monday, and Tuesday we have mortgages. We talk about mortgages in addition to all the estate planning stuff. Wednesday, we've got Ken Pecos, incredible realtor, knows everything about financial markets. And it was just wonderful to talk to him about buying and selling real property and how that works in San Diego area, Southern California area. Then on Thursdays, we've got Anthony Wright, our financial guru out of Tennessee, telling us all about how it works. And we had an incredible conversation with him just last time he was on the air with us. And it just was incredible hearing his take on the bank failures and the receiverships and how to be positive and take advantage of that and actually make money during the times that we're in and at all times, which he's so super good at. And then we have the Finding Joy Fridays, which is today. So I hope you all guys have a great weekend. It's a really sunny weekend for you. There's a couple of things that I think is important to review now that we're talking about, making sure that things are really the way they are. I've talked a little bit about, scams and stuff like that, but I want to switch topics and go a little bit into how important it is to declare what you want. Okay. So story, mom and dad had both died, not really close to each other, but what happened is dad died. And no, let's go. Okay. Better example of this is grandpa died. Okay. Grandpa died and left money to mom and to aunt and now we're trying to figure out what to do with grandpa's money. Okay. So what happens is one of grandpa's children dies. And grandpa's daughter left her children and left a message, basically told them, well, what's supposed to happen is when I die, then all the income from my inheritance is going to go to your little brother. And if he doesn't need it anymore, then you guys can have it. And then she died. Okay. So what happened is that the kids were trying to figure out, well, what did mom say was supposed to happen? Well, mom said she left us a letter. She left a letter explaining that all the income from the property is to go to our little brother. And then when our little brother reaches age, 45, then it's going to be split up between all three of us. It's like, well, okay, that sounds interesting, but where is that written? I don't know. I can't find it, but mom said that she wrote a letter and explained all this. Well, the problem with that is mom is not here to testify. Now, I'm not bashing on what mom did. It's just that whatever she did, first of all, they couldn't find it. And second of all, even if they did, it's not going to be a legally binding document. It's not, unless it's set up and it's got the right language to make it so that it's trust language, or the right language to show that it's like a declaration of her intention, which would be like some type of a will or a holographic will. So it's got to be It has to have some legal sufficiency to it. So what had happened in this particular situation is the letter from mom never surfaced, but the little kid, the younger beneficiary, the youngest son that was benefiting from the income for a couple of years was really annoyed now that the older siblings are saying, we need to change things. We need to liquidate this property, and no, you're not going to get, this full huge share because you're going to have to divide it with, the brother and the sister. And so he's really been out of shape about it. And they've just been this whole time kind of been thinking in terms of, we're just following mom's intent because she left us a letter that nobody can find. So don't do that to your kids. If you have the intention of doing that, put it in your trust. Make your trust say that. I was meeting with a person the last couple of weeks, and that's exactly what they were trying to say is like, well, we want the house to be a rental, or we want the house to be a vacation rental, or we don't want anybody living in the house except for our daughter, Josie, or whatever. Those things can be written into the trust. And if you talk to a professional who knows what they're doing, they will explain to you whether those are legally enforceable or whether it's just what we call precatory language, where you're just kind of hoping or praying that it will work. So you got to make sure in your trust that things are laid out, and to have that conversation on what things need to be specific and what things you don't have to be specific, but that you can just kind of generalize, like distributions. You don't have to be specific. You don't have to say this exact house has to be divided up in 3 shares after payment of all the expenses of the estate. And you don't have to say that. It's basically, it goes to my kids, and we count how many kids you have, and that's how we divide it up. But other things, you want to be very specific. Like, this house can be used by my daughter for 3 years, or by my daughter until she's 50, or by my daughter between now and age 50, as long as she maintains the property, as long as she pays the utility bills and fixes the property and keeps it up to market value, then she can stay here. And if that doesn't happen, then she's out. So those things need to be specifically written, because nobody can go to you and say, Mom, what did you mean by that? What did you mean by little brother, that he has the right to live in the house forever? He's trashing it. And we don't appreciate the fact that he's trashing it. So if he's trashing the house, that's a bad thing. And you can't go and ask Mom, well, what do you think? Will you go yell at him? It's like, we have to make assumptions. We have to make assumptions that Mom wanted to make sure that the younger brother who's living there was going to be able to take care of the house, and that he would actually do it, or else kick him out. So now we got to go to a judge and get the brother kicked out, because there's a presumption that he was supposed to preserve the assets of the estate. That's the job of the successor trustee who's been watching over him. And so you just cause all kinds of problems if you just allow too much and without any explanation. Okay. The other thing I wanted to talk about was, what about having a kid living in the house? It is not uncommon for one of the kids to live in the house towards the end of Mom and Dad's life and take care of them. And a lot of times that's going to be the kid that is the most available. Maybe it's the most skilled. Maybe it's a kid that cares the most. Maybe it's the only child. But somebody is going to end up taking care of Mom and Dad towards the end of their life. Now, let's say they move in. They've been in there for 6 months, and then a year, and then 4 years, and then 5 years, and then Mom and Dad die. They don't want to get out. They don't have any money. They haven't had a job in 5 years. They've just been living at the house and taking care of Mom and Dad. And they haven't been mooching off of them. They've been working very hard. And have Mom and Dad been providing them money? Oh, heck yeah. Spending money, travel money if they needed it, because they're taking care of them. So, and Mom and Dad can spend any amount of money they want on anything they want. But this kid basically took care of Mom and Dad all the way until they died. And now they don't want to move out. What do you do? Okay. If the trust does not specifically say that beneficiary has the right to live in that house for any period of time at all, that beneficiary has to move out. That's the bottom line. And if they want to go to court and fight it, good luck, because the judge is going to say, where does it say in there that you can stay in this house? And you won't find it. The idea is we need to get things moving, and having somebody staying in the house is not a good plan. If all the beneficiaries agree, they say, yeah, that's fine. We can leave our brother. He can stay in the house. In fact, we'll give him the house because we'll take the cash. So you can divide it up as long as it's equal shares. whatever the house is worth, you get credit to that person for. Whatever the investments are worth, you do the same thing. You give the credit to the person that's not living in the house. But I really think if that is your idea, if that is your plan, if you want to let your child live in that house for a number of years, then you need to write it down. Because the assumption, and I think it's a fair and legitimate assumption, is that after you pass away, everything's being sold and it's going to be distributed to the kids. So if a house is being occupied by anybody, a child beneficiary, a grandchild, a tenant, all that's going to have to be dealt with because you're selling the property. Does that make sense? The biggest thing that happens usually is there's a liquidation of your estate after you pass away, because that's the easiest way to make distributions. We've talked about family homes. We talked about real property. We've talked about all that on this show. And I'm always happy to review it and go over that with you. If you do have any questions, I'd love a call from you. You can call my office, 855-500-TRUST. I've also got some free stuff on my website that explains the basics about living trusts. And the book is actually called Living Trust Basics, believe it or not. And it talks about, living trust basics. If you have any questions, but you can always call me. You guys know that, 855-500-TRUST. If you don't have an estate plan, please get one. We're in tax season. It's coming up on summer months, travel months. Do not wait until it's too late. Do not wait until it's like right before the vacation. That's something else that would stress you out. Just do it now. We can put together a basic estate plan. At least you'll have something that will be awesome. It may not be perfect, but it will do the job. And if you want to modify it later, all right, bring it on, because the trusts that we create are called living trusts. They're revocable, changeable, amendable, deletable, but you've got to have one in place, and someone, not you, needs to have that original after you pass away. So you don't have to give it to them before you die, but you want to make sure that whoever your next trustee is, your successor, you want to make sure that they know where to find the book, where to find your trust binder. So this was a good show to have you along. I appreciate having Callie Logan at the beginning of the show, the first half, talking about, dealing with your community and talking to people about things and talking things out. That's really good. We're humans. It's all messy. It's all good. And I hope you have a really great weekend. I hope you have a great rest of your Friday. Enjoy some sunshine, San Diegans, and we'll talk to you again on Monday. We'll be back here on the Word on Wealth. Make sure you go to my website, gqlaw.com. Bye, everybody.
Tell a friend about the Word on Wealth, featured since 1995, with financial solutions attorney Gary Quackenbush, an expert in estate planning, wills and trusts, and tax problem solving. Gary is past president of the California Society of Tax Consultants. Reach out to us. The Word on Wealth team of financial experts is here to answer your questions and help preserve your family's financial future. The information you hear on the Word on Wealth is for general information purposes only. This program discusses general financial and legal topics. Seek legal advice from a competent lawyer for your individual legal needs.